So just wait a couple of seconds. Um, cool. All right, we should start. We were live. All right, good day, everyone. Apologies for starting a couple of minutes late. We were facing some technical difficulties, but we're on track now. So welcome to today's LinkedIn Live session on the topic empathy at scale: what AI-powered hiring still needs from you. I'm Shavi, content manager at Recruit CRM, and I will be moderating today's session. I'll be mostly behind the curtains while our expert for the day takes all the spotlight. So today we have Heidi Wasini with us. Let me give you a quick introduction. Heidi is a seasoned talent acquisition and employer branding expert, passionate about building exceptional workplaces. With experiences across different industries, she specializes in strategic talent attraction, DEI and B, and creating authentic employer brands. Heidi has worked with top companies like Too Good to Go and Pandora, helping them scale and thrive through innovative talent strategies. So, welcome, Heidi. Do you want to say a quick hi to the audience and also a bit about what we'll be discussing today?
Thank you so much for having me on this LinkedIn live session. I've been looking forward to it and I'm very excited. And the topic of today is, of course, with a world where AI is taking more and more over, and particularly in recruitment processes and many other places, how do we ensure a more human connection and ensure a great candidate experience still?
All right, awesome. Well, with that, let's get started with the session. So, Heidi, I have my very first question for you. So, AI and automation are reshaping recruitment as all of us know it. But where do you see the biggest risk of losing the human touch in the process?
I was thinking about this so much this morning when I was, or the days up to this when I was preparing. And there was these words that came into my mind as I was thinking about it, and it was efficiency versus decency. So what I mean by that is that we are in a world where talent acquisition is getting more and more tasks, and they're getting more to do with less resources, and that's a trend that we're seeing in the market. And with AI coming in and particularly making these processes more efficient, in a world where talent acquisition is not necessarily a strategic priority, but more of an operational priority, I think that we might see the risk of the efficiency becoming a way to scale down on resources rather than being decent in the process, meaning that we actually put those resources back into the process and then use it to reshape the candidate experience and think about other touch points where we could have a more human connection.
All right, awesome. I have another question for you. What are some common mistakes you think recruiters make when trying to scale with automation, and how can they avoid them?
I think that when you look into, I think the one of the first or one of the first challenges that I think is that often we haven't really thought about what problem we're trying to solve, which means we don't put a holistic view over it. So we may look very isolated into the process and not really look at it in a holistic way. So I think that sometimes when you're trying to be more efficient, we don't really think about the candidate experience as a whole, but we think about what can we get out of it. So I think that's one of the challenges that we may face in scaling with AI.
All right, cool. So, how do you think recruitment teams can ensure that candidate experience remains personal and also empathetic, even with the increasing use of AI and automation systems?
I think that's a very good question because, like I said before, a lot of the time it will mean that the team is actually being having less resources than they did before, rather than using the efficiency to actually put more resources into shaping this candidate experience. So I think it really goes back to some of the things that I've been talking about before and in other forums that or been speaking about, that we need to lift talent acquisition from being an operational unit to being a strategic unit. Talent needs to be at the forefront of everything that we do in the company. And as long as it's almost like a byproduct of just getting people in and it's just an operational process, I fear that we will continue to see this
Yeah.
challenge. So if you want, so if you want to actually get this and to get the resources, I think it has to be with about ensuring that the outlook on talent acquisition changes within the company show how the business is actually gaining value from
Yeah,
this.
I completely agree. So, Heidi, in your experience, what are some quick wins or simple fixes that recruiters can implement to dramatically improve candidate experience?
I I think in a world where the majority of candidates think that they have gotten a good experience, if we just get back to them in a timely manner, So if we look at what candidates are looking for a great candidate experience, the number one thing is I actually heard back. I wasn't ghosted. And as long as you are not being ghosted, it's being considered a great candidate experience. So I think that the bar is set so low for candidate experience that just asking for a decent feedback is a candidate experience where you can do something. So if you ensure that all your candidates have feedback, then the second step, if you actually ensure that they have a valid and a feedback that they can use for something, maybe offering them an opportunity to get feedback on their resume, their application. If they have been to interviews, ensure that they get timely feedback on how they performed in the interview and how they could further develop so they would be more interesting for the next role that may come along in the company. I think it can go a long way. I think that's one step. And another step is really to look at your whole process and have this mindset of looking from the outside in instead of the inside out. Because that's also another thing that I see is that we're so obsessed about how can we be more efficient? What is it that we need from the candidates in order to ensure that we get in the information and ensure that we think it's the right match? That we sometimes forget how does it actually feel from the outside in. So maybe just try going through your own process within the company. Try to apply. How does it feel to apply for a job? How does it feel to go through the process? And then see where can you quickly step in and then measure the candidate feedback. Ensure that you have a system in place where you measure the candidate feedback and you actually know where to put in the resources that you do have to increase the better candidate
All right, thank
experience.
you, Heidi. Another question that I have for you is many recruitment processes are becoming more data driven with all the AI and technology. How can recruiters balance data driven decisions with maintaining a human centered approach to hiring?
Mm. I think maybe also putting some, especially if you have, for example, a measurement. Sorry, the sun is actually shining in Denmark, which is unusual. If you actually have measurement in place to measure the candidate experience, then that is the human factor of it. What is it actually that people are saying about the experience of going through the process for you? And then balancing that with whatever tools you have. So if, for example, let's say you're using a tool like video interviewing, and the feedback is that people feel it is distancing and that it's not personal enough, then maybe reconsider if that is the right step. So I think using the data to actually understand where you can put in the human touch would be a way to balance these things out.
All right, awesome. So, Heidi, can you also share an example of a recruitment process that successfully balances automation with a personal touch and like what makes it work?
Um, I think part of the challenge is that there are some things you can do in a small company, which is some of the things I, for example, did in Vivino. There are some things you can do in a small company that you can do in some countries, but then when you take it to a different country, actually, it is a challenge. So there are different technologies. For example, AI technology is kind of hard to use in New York, whereas it's quite easily implemented in Denmark. So the consideration about what you need to do where is actually, I think it's pretty hard to come up with a an example of something that would work anywhere. But what I have done myself is I pilot it. So I try in one area of the business to do something. And then don't be afraid to just try it out and then include the candidate in that experience. Let them know, let the hiring manager know this is something we're testing out. How does it feel for you? Is this the way that we should go? I think that could be one way to actually try to utilize more of these tools.
All right, awesome, Heidi. I have another question. So, looking forward, what are some emerging trends or tools in recruitment tech that you believe will help enhance the human element in hiring processes?
There are so many tools. It's really really hard to keep on track. But there are some of the things that I'm looking into. If I were to mention specific tools, I think that recruitment enablement, like a tool like Poetry, is really something that is the future of recruitment, because the thought behind of what they're doing is really making a recruiter's life more easy, which is what we basically need. We need somebody to help us automate in the right places. I think other tools where you find some kind of AI, where you understand the bias, where you understand the blockers, where you understand how you can actually work with that, but that screens resumes, and particularly in high volume recruitments where you're getting thousands of resumes. How can you actually ensure that you find the right candidate? I don't think that we have found the perfect tool for that yet, but I think that there are definitely emerging tools that are interesting to look into. And what I also like is that there are tools to almost each part of the process. So again, if you look at your process, trying to figure out where is it that you actually need to put the emphasis, the focus on increasing candidate experience, and then try to search the market for that. So I think those are some of the ideas that I'm looking into to myself. Another tool that I think is really cool that I've followed for year is, of course, interview avatars like Tengai. And I think the science that goes behind that, really understanding what is going on, is highly interesting as well, because the predictive value of what they do is actually so high.
Yeah, all right. So that's it for the questions that I had for you today, and thank you so much, Harry, for answering those questions so well. So now we'll transition into our Q&A round. So in case any of the audience members have any questions or anything that we've discussed so far has provoked any thoughts, we're going to take questions from you guys now. So we do have a couple of people watching live. In the meantime, Heidi, we've talked about this topic, even Recruit CRM, on all of our platforms. We talk about AI and automation technology and the human touch so often. So we've received questions from different types of people from, on like different days. We've received these questions before as well. So we do have a couple of FAQs that people commonly ask, whether it's in our polls or in our webinars. So I actually have one question that I want to ask you, maybe from an audience perspective. So we had someone ask, what advice would you give to recruitment leaders who are under pressure to automate more but don't want to compromise on candidate experience?
That's a very, very good question. I would advise them to really have data on the candidate experience and then understand the business case. So, if you have data on the candidate experience that tells that something is not going well, you can really translate that into a loss of in the company, because we know that there are certain parameters that you can measure on that has direct impact. So, for example, we know that candidates that have a great experience in in the recruitment process are 38% more likely to be engaged once they start. We also know that a majority of the people who have a bad experience will share this on social media, and this will hurt your brand, and you can measure that as well. So use the data that you have to measure what the business impact will be. One of the things that I keep saying is that my job is to help the business save money or earn money. And that is basically what you can tweak and twist no matter what part of the recruitment process that you're looking at, even with the automation and candidate experience.
All right, I love that. We received another question, sometime back. We had someone ask, how can candidate feedback be effectively used to improve the balance between automation and human interaction in the hiring journey?
How can candidate feedback be used? Um, I think that, I mean, that's part of the data journey. Once you get the feedback from the candidate, you know where to focus. And if they feel that that part of the process have become too automized, then maybe look into it then. But really understand that the feedback that you're getting from the candidate is also data. Everything that you can do is data and business. So once you have that feedback, you know where to put in your resources, you know what to change, you know where to keep it. I think that is basically the easiest answer for that one.
All right, thank you, Heidi. We have a question from an audience member. They're asking any overlooked parts of the process, like rejection emails or interview prep, that recruiters should pay more attention to.
Really good question as well. Honestly, I think that one of the challenges that we have is that recruitment is not necessarily a place where people get a lot of training. And I think that, in particularly when we assess people, when we use tests, a lot of people don't really understand what to look for in different tests and what to look for in the tools that they're choosing. So, for example, when I speak with people about predictive value and reliability and all these different things of a test assessment, a lot of the times people actually haven't looked into it or thought about it. So I think that really understanding the scientific value and the scientific predictiveness of the tools that you're using, and not just get enamored by what it can do, but understand what is it doing, why is it doing it, is it valid, is it not valid, is it reliable, is it predictive enough in the sense of what it's doing. And then I think that training is also overlooked. I think that a lot of the time we leave hiring managers to the self, and I think it goes back to the fact that it's been looked upon as a very operational function and not a strategic one. Like you wouldn't have people doing a budget that never, like, just imagine if you put people with no financial experience to do a budget of a company and to do the yearly bookkeeping. You would that would be unimaginable. But we do that with people. We do that with recruitment. People who have no training, who have no background, who have no idea of what is actually going on in the recruitment process, are being put in tougher and tougher positions because a lot of companies don't want to, let's just face it, pay for the experience. So they put in people who have a lot of potential but never tried it before. And this, for me, is a shame because we lose a lot of experience that could actually increase the candidate experience.
All right, thank you for answering that, Heidi. We have another question from an audience member. How do you convince data driven hiring managers to still trust their gut or their empathy?
That is such a I love that question. One of the things that I say with to my hiring managers when I sit and recruitment them is that I don't want you to ever feel to forget your gut feeling or your empathy, but use data to validate that. And by that I means that the more touch points you have in terms of data, the better you can evaluate and then understand where is that gut feeling coming from. So, for example, ensure that you have a case because we know the validity of that. Ensure that you have a test that is based on general mental ability because we know that that is the best predictor of future performance in terms from knowledge jobs. Ensure that you have the right personality trait test, not a type test, because those are two different things. So ensure that you have a personality trait test to ensure that you can look for the right competencies or behavioral traits. So when you have these different data points, you have the case, you have the personality test, you have the GMA, and then if you then use a structured interview process and a structured interview guide for all of these candidates, where you use a performance-based, situational judgment, competency-based interviewing technique. If you do that, the chance of matching the right people to the company will be higher, and you will actually give data to the hiring manager just from different points of just from different data points that you can enable the hiring manager to understand and mix that with the gut feeling.
All right, thank you, Heidi. So I think those are all the questions we have from the audience today, but I had one more question that we received a while back. So, how do you see the future of recruitment evolving with AI and automation? I think this is something many people are very curious about, and we've had different types of opinions and debates on this. But, like, what are your thoughts on this question?
Yeah, I'm following Hung Lee these days also because he's talking a lot a lot about this, how data is or how AI will change. I think there are still so far we're still so far behind on just making a decent candidate experience that I am a little bit afraid that we will fall into processes without really thinking it through because it's a new toy and we get very enamored by new opportunities, by new toys. Um, so I think that I unfortunately think that we'll still see a lot of candidates getting ghosted. I don't think that I have said this before, but technology does not solve a human problem. So if you have a recruitment process that's broken, that process is still going to be broken no matter how much tech you put into it. And I think that is one of the challenges that we'll see ahead. And I think that they can also bring a lot of good with it because it does enable us to do things faster. It does enable us to be able to optimize some of these processes to make these admin tasks to take away some of these admin tasks from recruiters. So as long as that energy is actually being put back into the process and not just being, making it more efficient rather than decent, then I think it can be a big help going
All
forward.
right, awesome, Heidi. I think those are all the questions we have for today. Do you have any closing remarks before we end the session for the audience?
Um, I actually haven't really thought about that, but I think that I would really implore people to understand what it is that they want to change before they start changing it. And don't just jump on board with AI just because it looks like a new toy, but really understand where is it coming from and why do we want to do it and what impact will it have on the candidate experience. And then just be sure that you don't ghost your candidates. Then you'll be a long
All right,
way.
thank you so much, Heidi. Well, that's it for the session today, guys. We've dropped a couple of links in the chat on LinkedIn and YouTube, so don't forget to connect with Heidi on her LinkedIn and even check out her company's website. If you're interested in learning a bit more about Recruit CRM, you can head over to our website. If you want to check out Recruit CRM live, you can book a free demo with us today, and we also have a no commitment, unlimited free trial. You can check that out as well. Also, follow us on all of our social media platforms to stay up to date on the upcoming LinkedIn Lives. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much, Heidi. And we will see all of you again